This is an Ice Guys Patreon exclusive.
Welcome to another Ice Guys team season preview video. 32 teams in 32 days rolls along with the Calgary Flames with this edition of our preview videos. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and helping us out with the Calgary Flames because he's a Calgary man. Even though he's a Leaf fan, he knows all things Calgary Flames and has all that local coverage to sift through on a daily basis. Goose helping us out to preview the Calgary Flames for the upcoming season. Goose, how are you? Things good?
Things are great. Good to be back. Thank you for allowing me to come on and talk about the Flames this year. Things are good here in Calgary. We're in a heat wave, plus 28 today. Supposed to be plus 28 all week. It hasn't been that nice in a while. It's been wet as hell out here, so we'll take it. We'll take it for the end of August. Yeah, really unreal. It's crazy.
No doubt. Like fall is arriving early, apparently, in some parts of Canada right now. We'll see if the end of the season will arrive early for the Calgary Flames, as it did last year. A team that obviously pushed hard to make the playoffs, but ended up falling just short at the end of the day. Still, it was a 96-point season last year for the Calgary Flames, albeit missing out on the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think when you look at this team this year and you look at the forward group, there's a lot that is very similar to what we saw last year. Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri. I think if the Calgary Flames are going to improve offensively, and when you look again at those numbers for scoring last year, Calgary just 2.68 goals per game a season ago, and only Anaheim, Nashville, and San Jose scored fewer goals per game last year than the Calgary Flames. And Connor Zary is going to be a big part of them making a jump. They're going to hope for a big season from him. From all indications, he's probably going to get top-line role opportunity right from the hop, and he is definitely going to have to see an increase from the 13 goals and 27 points that he had last season in 54 games, which was actually less than what he got 2 years ago when he had 34 points and 14 goals. His numbers actually decreased a little bit. That can't happen when a team is struggling to score goals as it is. So we'll see what kind of season Connor Zary has. They've got another really good young sniper. He's got the potential to really be solid for them in Matt Coronado. Of course, last year, played almost a full season for the Flames, his first really full season with this team, 77 games, 47 points, 24 goals. If you can bump that number up to 30 goals for a guy like Matt Coronado at the least, then that certainly would help ease the burden, if you will, of this Calgary Flames team when it comes to scoring goals this season. Michael Backlund, the captain, of course, has been here, for a very long time now. Blake Coleman, the two guys they got from the Philadelphia Flyers at the deadline last year, Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee. The hope is these are two guys that can give you offense too, and having a training camp with the team this year and a full season makes them more comfortable, maybe more familiar in their roles now. And you would like to hope, if you're Ryan Huska and the Calgary Flames coaching staff, that those guys now with a full season with Calgary can help chip in. Because, again, this has got to be a collective effort to improve the offense here for the Calgary Flames. And hopefully a full season of Frost and Farabee, they're going to feel more comfortable. Igor Sharangovich is another player that's got that offensive upside. But last year we saw more dips in his numbers big time from 2 years ago, where he scored 31 goals and 59 points 2 seasons ago, just 17 goals, 32 points for the Calgary Flames last year. So can Igor Sharangovich have a bounce back season? That's going to be very important for them. And then you've got I like their crash and bang fourth line. It's a pest line. It's an irritant line. But if they go forward with the Lamborghini, Ryan Lomberg, with Martin Pospisil, who really can get under your skin, sometimes crosses the line, but still, nevertheless, he's got that in his game. And Adam Klapka is another big guy, can throw his weight around. That could be a nice, because again, it's kind of like the Florida Panthers playbook, if you will. Have a fourth line that's really going to drive the other team nuts and could be a positive for you, not a detriment to you. And I think there's, the potential for that to be a good, hard forechecking, physical type of fourth line that you like to see. It's still a bunch of questions on the blue line. I like Rasmus Anderson, but again, he's staying healthy. It's become more and more of a concern for him as he's gotten older. We like Mackenzie Weegar, but the rest of the blue line, they're going to have to continue to evolve and morph into roles. And to the credit of the Calgary Flames last year, I think Alex and I spoke about it. We hated that blue line going into last year. We thought it was terrible.
Yeah.
They played better, way better. Now, maybe above their heads better, but there's no question they got more collectively out of that Flames blue line than certainly I expected. A lot of us expected last year because they were a top 10 team defensively as far as goals allowed per game, 2.88 goals allowed per game for the Flames, just on the fringe of the top 10. So now a lot of that, which we'll get to, was Dustin Wolf, hungry like the wolf. Yeah, you knew I didn't get that. Dustin Wolf, and of course, we revere him as a goaltender, and we think he's got a great career ahead of him. But he also needs a good blue line, and Braden Pahal, impressed me at times last year. Jake Bean, can he have a better season of health? Daniil Miramonov back in the fold, and one guy to watch out for. He's got the potential, I think, to really impress at training camp and maybe even push to make this team out of training camp, even though he's still very, very young. And that's Zane Parecki, the 19-year-old, someone to really watch out for in training camp and in the preseason. This is a guy the Calgary Flames like quite a bit. Why wouldn't they? I think he's going to have a pretty solid NHL career. It's just going to be a question of, is he ready to be an NHLer at this stage? But Zane Parecki is certainly someone that you're going to want to watch out for in training camp. We all like Dustin Wolf. Now, the interesting thing for Calgary is he's great, but the one thing about Calgary last year is they had a pretty nice insurance policy as a backup in Darth Vladar, and he is no longer there, of course, with the Calgary Flames. And behind Dustin Wolf is a lot more question marks. Ivan Prosvetov, I can't say I'm overly sold on what we're going to get out of him in a backup role, and Devin Cooley, who is, I think, more of a minor league goaltender, quite honestly, at this stage of his career than an NHL one. So you talk about a team's fortunes this season resting on the health of their goaltender, and I think Calgary's right up there among the top teams in the league where goaltender's got to stay healthy, and if he doesn't, the season could turn to shit. So, that's where we stand with that, especially because, again, you don't have a Dan Vladar anymore that you can just throw in there and get 30 games, and he's capable of stealing you games and playing great for you. You don't have that now. Prosvetov and Cooley are many, many more question marks there, what you're going to get behind Dustin Wolf. So, like I said, Calgary, you're banking on Wolf being healthy. And if he is, he'll play great. I don't worry about him not playing great. He will be fine. He's going to be great if he's healthy. But you got to worry about his health and him being available to you. And you got to worry about the offense. There's a lot of ifs going into this Calgary team improving offensively. And I also don't think their blue line collectively is going to play. I think some of it was they were playing over their head a little bit last year, above their heads. I think the blue line will regress a little bit this year, in my opinion. But the goal scoring has to improve, and it's got to be done by committee. Kadri, did the best he could last year. I think Huberdeau at times had really great stretches for Calgary, but you're going to need Connor Zary to step up. You're going to need, obviously, Igor Sharangovich to bounce back. Matt Coronado's got to show you he can be a consistent 30-goal scorer in this league. And the two guys they got from the Flyers, with hopefully a full season, they've got to be offensive impact, make an impact offensively for this team in Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. So, like I said, there's a lot of questions. I'm pessimistic. I lean under the point total for Calgary.
Oh, yeah.
Why I'm not moving on it is because of my respect for Dustin Wolf, because I think that kid is that freaking good as a goaltender. I don't feel comfortable betting Calgary under, because I think there's going to be situations where, Calgary only scores 2-3 goals in a bunch of games, but Wolf is that good to steal games for the Flames and have them win some of these 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 type of games. So, and speaking of Wolf, I did dabble in the Vezina Trophy market on him as well in that 15-1 range. Alex, who is also a big fan, of course, of our guy Dustin Wolf. Alex, what do you think of the Calgary Flames?
It's funny. This will be the third straight year in which I bet Dustin Wolf to win the Vezina. I took a flyer with him at 45-1 2 years ago, when the depth was number 1 Jake Markstrom, number 2 Dan Vladar, number 3 Dustin Wolf, thinking that, Markstrom, we knew he was going to be on his way out at some point. Vladar's a backup in the NHL. We knew Dustin Wolf was going to, once he gets his shot, be a true number 1 goalie. And the progression took a while, But now he's there. Now he's in that spot. But as you mentioned, the depth is not the same. When you had Wolf as your number 3, you're in great shape. When he's your number 1, that's fine, but you have nothing behind him. And Ivan Prosvetov, for the numbers that he put up in the AHL, they were decent a couple of years ago with the Colorado Eagles. He goes back home to Russia, plays with Moscow. Average numbers in the KHL. Usually, I like to see guys from the KHL coming over back to North America with great numbers. His numbers were pretty much average. And I think that's what he is at best. At absolute best, he's an average goalie, which means you have to keep Dustin Wolf healthy, but you can't run him 70 games like this ain't 1996 anymore. So you're gonna have Prosvetov or Cooley or whoever else in this organization. I'll have my goalie charts done up before the season starts, kind of compiling all the information. But whoever's the true backup of this team, they're gonna have to give you 20 good starts out of the 82, and that's asking a lot when you're talking about how inept this offense can be at times. If they don't start putting together games consistently of 3, 4, 5 goals a night, especially when you have a night where Wolf is on the bench, then you're going to be in trouble. So this is a team where it's going to be unders with Wolf, probably overs when he's sitting down, and maybe not so many bets on Calgary as it will be against Calgary. I hate to say that. I think they're progressing there's still a lot of young guys on this team too, mind you. Like, yes, their top 6 core is the age of this locker room, but there's still a lot of young guys on that blue line. Wolf is still a young guy himself, and even Prosvetov at 25. We've seen goalies have resurgences late in their 20s and into their 30s. So I'm not completely saying this man's career is over, but he's certainly not going to be the guy you want to rely on if Calgary's trying to get even close to where they were last year, fighting for a wild card spot. So yeah, I see the things trending downward. Maybe they can prove all of us wrong and start off hot. That's going to be a key for that. But I am on Wolf again at 15-1 because wherever he takes them, that's how it's relying. The Flames go wherever Wolf goes. If he has a season where he stands on his head and gives you 40 wins and he's stealing games left and right, making big time saves, and Calgary gets in the playoffs, well, that's why. And if this team falls apart and they're a lottery pick team and it's because he didn't play well or he got hurt, then we'll understand why too. So yeah, there's no team in the league really that kind of runs along their goaltender right now more than the Calgary Flames with Dustin Wolf.
No question about it. And just before we get Goose's thoughts on Calgary, I want to point out something. You talked about how the blue line maybe played above their heads last year, better than expected. No one resembles that more than Kevin Ball for the Calgary Flames. Yep. And he's a guy that, had a better season. He was very solid defensively and really, really good, in fact, defensively. Much better. Hits, block shots, very good in his positioning in his D zone last year. And he parlayed that into the big contract extension in the offseason. 6 years at $32.1 million. Good on him. Great season. Hats off for a guy that is meandering as a defenseman, quite honestly, going into last year, going back to his days with the New Jersey Devils. But there's a part of me that looks at this defensive depth chart and says, holy shit, Kevin Ball could start the year on the top pair with Rasmus Anders. And credit to him. Look, good on the guy. Great season last year. Got the contract as a result. But holy fuck, we're going to have Kevin Ball as our top pair defenseman. And he was very good defensively, very solid, throws his weight around, leading the team in block shots, or was right up there. But still, he does not give you much offensively. You look at the offensive numbers for Kevin Ball last year and 3 goals and 20 points last year. That's all you got in the 73 games from him on the blue line. So, and I like him. The credit to him and the big leap he took as a defenseman last year. But there's still that part of me that says he's better. But gosh, is he a number 1 pair defenseman now in the NHL level? I'm still going to need to see it again because there is part of me that thinks, I don't want to say one hit wonder, 1 year wonder, but like I said, that's putting a lot on this guy's plate. And again, it speaks to how I still think there are some holes with this Calgary blue line.
He earned the contract. I just don't know if he's, like I said, a number 1 type guy.
Yeah,
if you can get a true number 1
to go up, Alex. If he like you can't be trotting out there on a number 1 pair on the blue line with 3 goals and 20 points in 70 some games. You got to at least try to a little bit more on the offense.
Or Rasmus Anderson becomes a Norris guy and give you 20 goals and 50
carry the load offensively.
Right. That's going to be one of it.
That's the hope in Calgary, from what I'm hearing, is that they're hoping that if that's the way the pairings go, they're hoping that Ball becomes as kind of that stay-at-home anchor, and Anderson can then freewheel a little more, right? Kind of bring his offense back, because his offense dipped last year overall, right? His numbers weren't as good as they have been in previous years.
From Anderson, Goose, they do from the blue
You do.
line.
You need him to start shooting the puck more. You need him to start being more active instead of hanging back and basically trying to, prevent the goals. You need him to be more than what he is or what he has been. Alex, you mentioned 60 games for Wolf. I don't see him playing more than 50, to be honest, because I don't see how Calgary can keep trotting him out and burning him down when they're calling him the goaltender of the next 10 years for Calgary.
Sure. Yeah.
So I honestly believe, and I've already just on futures, I've got Dustin Wolf over 26.5 wins this year, minus 110 on Bet365. But if he plays more than 50, maybe 55 games this year, I will be really surprised. Prosvetov, I don't understand that. Cooley, I know the thinking here in Calgary is that with the what the hell's the name of the AHL team?
Wranglers.
Wranglers.
Thank you, the Wranglers. With the Wranglers being in Calgary at the Dome,
I'm
the thinking is that
you're in Calgary and you didn't know.
I got a lot going on in my head these days. The thinking is that Cooley gets that exposure to the big league team. Maybe he experiences like an elevation in his play, so that he'll be able to come in and when needed. But you're right about the defense. The defense is spotty, right? After you get through Weegar, to be honest, Weegar and Anderson, once you get through those two, I'm worried. I really am. And I'm with you, Ian. I think Calgary is going to see a regression in their total points this year. Again, all my bets right now are on 365. They've got Calgary over under at 83.5. I like them a little more than 83.5, but like I say, Dustin Wolf's going to have to steal some games for them. That's for sure. You mentioned 29th in the league in goals scored. They need a big pickup from their young guys. Never mind the older guys, but you mentioned Coronado, but we're also looking at Perret, Klapka, Pospisil, Kirkland. These guys have all got to start to step up and play more. And I think they're going to ask too much out of the young guys this year. So that's why I expect a regression. Unfortunately, with Wolf, I don't expect his regression to come because of the sophomore jinx or the curse. It's just now every team has tape on him. Now they know how to deal with him, and they have a better idea, right? Last year was his first full year in the league. He shone last year. Like, he shone. This year, I think they're going to have a better idea of how to go at him. And with the defense being less than spectacular here in Calgary, if that breaks down, he's going to see 40, 45 shots a night, I think. And so that doesn't spell anything good for Calgary as far as that goes.
He's going to.
And then you mentioned the old
among the league leaders in goals saved above average. You can.
Yes, he will be.
Because
he's going to face a lot of chances that would lead to.
He's going to see a lot of rubber this year. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the older guys: Coleman, Caudry, Anderson, Backlund. The thinking is, this is one thing I've heard in Calgary, and seems to be kind of a prevalent thought, is that if they're going to move Anderson, they're going to do it before the start of the season so that they can maximize the value of him. So you might see him come back into Calgary and be traded out before the start of the season. So, because the thinking is, of course, and I've read, I got to give a shout out to Ryan Leslie, and I can't think of his name right now, on flamecentral.ca. They were talking about, and they said, like,
someone else.
Yeah, like, why would you give him up in the middle of the season for a draft pick or something along that line when you could ship him out at the start of the season, maximize his value, then get more back for your team? And then I've looked at the schedule. The first 30 games, if the Flames are 500 or better, I'll be blown away, because their first 30 games, they've got some real nasty teams coming at them. Never mind Vegas twice, Blues, who I think are going to be a better team this year. They've got some really hard teams to go at, and if they're under 500 after 30, you might see shopping of, because I know it's been out there, and it's not just Toronto or Montreal. I honestly think Kadri's got some value this year as a centerman. Never mind Backlund having some value as a centerman in the league, and then also Coleman. If you're going to be in a cup run, you want Coleman. Like, this is a guy that's going to give you some numbers, give you some minutes, and help you in your playoff run. So the grand scheme of things, like I say, I got the Flames 15 to 20 points worse than last year. That's where I'm looking. So I'm looking 76 to 85 max. Like I say, those first 30 games are really going to tell the tale here in Calgary. And then on top of that, a couple futures looks that we've got. I've got Zach Parek, Parrot, however you want to say it.
Zane Paraki. There you go.
Yeah, Zane Paraki. I've got him plus 1,800 on the Calder Memorial. So that's a futures look for me. And I've also got, like I say, Dustin Wolf, 26.5 over that for the wins. And I've got Calgary missing the playoffs this year. I'm not quite yet on their points. I think 83.5 is kind of the bubble. It's kind of right where it needs to be. So it's a question of how you feel. And then other than that, on the other side, on a trivia note, construction is coming along quite nicely on the arena. Anybody wants, you can follow me at Calgary Goose on X, and I will be posting. I'm going to try and get down there at least twice a month for pictures. So you'll be able to see the progression of the arena as we go along.
And yes, they are finally in progress now, and the wheels are in motion for that new arena finally in Calgary. And we'll say goodbye to the vaunted Saddle Dome.
And hopefully they'll get it done in time to where they won't have to do some kind of crazy road trip when the building opens. Because I'm
exactly.
You mentioned the 30 games this year. The first 30 games, 18 of those are on the road. So
yes.
and so the fact that they, obviously none of the guys are thinking about this now, but long term you have to realize you're probably going to have about 10 games on the road potentially when this new building opens up if things aren't ready in time.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of look at that too. So that's going to be key for Calgary. Not just this year, but moving forward, getting off to good starts, and they're one of those teams that really have to, like you said, make those assessments in the first 20, 25 games, 30 games, and that can be tough when they're on the road.
I'm just looking at it now, Goose. I just pulled it up. Calgary Flames schedule in October. It's tough.
It's nasty.
Is. Oh, my goodness.
It is.
Oilers.
They could...
Oilers, Canucks, Blue, who I think are going to be better. Oilers, we know, still going to be really good. Blues.
Yep.
Jets twice.
Yep.
Golden Knights twice, Canadians, Leafs, Senators, all playoff teams last year from the East. Holy goodness.
Yeah. Like I say, that October schedule, if they come out of that 500, then they'll be in decent shape. But even the first 30 games, once you look into November, even up to the start of December, like there's a possibility they could be on a winning average, maybe even less.
Like there's not a single Pittsburgh, San Jose, one of the bottom tier teams in that whole month of October to begin the year. I mean,
there's no bottom feeders until I think December, right? As far what we would consider bottom feeders in the league this year, anyway, right? So.
And there's certain markets that still aren't up yet. They'll be coming up over the next couple of weeks, but maybe a flyer for worst team. Because you could probably get around 50, 60 to 1. And if you have everything go wrong, they lose early, they trade off things, maybe Wolf gets banged up for a while, we could be talking about a team that looks just like dog shit come January, February, and certainly post-Olympic break. So that may be worth a flyer.
Almost like survival mode this team will be.
Yeah, potentially. They can't afford any injuries at any position.
No.
Because they don't have any depth. So that's scary.
And immediately when November opens, it does lighten up. Their first 2 November games are Predators, Flyers. Those are
yes,
for sure.
Yeah. Now the Flyers, with Tocchet being there, that one I'm waiting to see what kind of a change happens because of that. Predators, I do think are going to be a softer team this year. So that when I went through it, I went, oh, that's definitely that's a good game. They could maybe eke out a win here. The more I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that's probably a loss. Oh, that's probably a loss. Oh, that's close to being a loss, right? Like there's a lot of coin flips in there.
I was going to say, there's a lot of teams that Calgary struggled against that weren't good teams, like the Hawks, for example. They played Chicago at home and the road in that first 30-game set. So there's teams that gave them troubles that they should really beat. So if they aren't ready for that, then this could be worse than we even expecting talking about now.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Actually, I'll probably, once I'm done talking to you guys, I'll probably dive into Bet365 and see what they are for for worst team. I think that 365 also has a bottom 5 finish in the league this year. I think they have one of those sitting in their future. So
that gives you a little more wiggle room. You don't
Wiggle
just have to bet
exactly
the worst
Worst team,
record.
yeah.
You can just bet and have those.
I would make that bet. I would definitely that, like you said, because you're going to get better number with that than you will with obviously the actual bottom 5. So that's definitely
right.
something I would be targeting.
Yeah, no doubt. But yes, definitely concerns more than eternal optimism, at least to enter the season from all of us here when it comes to the Calgary Flames. No question about that. Great stuff, Goose. We thank you very much for joining us.
No worries. I got one other thing. I heard that I was talking to a friend of mine. Again, I got a couple friends. A couple guys have moved on, so I've lost some contact. But I got one guy who kind of threw a bug in my ear. He was looking at the teams in the league, and he was looking at cap space and so on and so forth. Maybe teams that have the ability to trade back for Anderson. His one team that he says if he's going to go somewhere, he was looking at Dallas as a possible landing spot for Anderson, because Dallas has the picks and the possible players to ship back that would make it a decent trade. And if again, like I say, the rumble
the other way. How many times have we heard that guy's name in trade rumblings for the last
right? And the rumble is
both too.
Yeah, and the rumble is that if they're going to trade him, they want to do it before the start of the season to maximize their get back.
Yeah.
So right, and Dallas is in the hunt this year. Dallas is one of those top teams that we expect to be hunting for the cup this year again.
Solidifying the blue line is a priority. Look at all the back-to-back cups in Vegas. Good blue lines, 1 through 6, plenty of depth, and teams want that now.
Right, and then Vegas was mentioned. Mm-hmm. But Vegas was mentioned, but there's not. They'd have to ship too much out the door to bring Anderson in, because he's going to look for an extension. This is his last year, by the way. He's playing, if I'm not mistaken, it's 4.5, which is a deal for him. He's probably going to want 8, maybe even 9. So whatever team trades for him is going to want to sign him, I would think. Again, Dallas, if they ship 1 or maybe 2 guys out plus a prospect, a pick maybe, that might be kind of the deal that Calgary looks for. Conroy.
Oh, do we lose Goose there? I think we did.
I think we did.
Just a minute. We're done anyway. But like I said, Alex,
go ahead, I was going to say we'll talk about Dallas. I know in a few days. But if a trade was made where Anderson was sent to Dallas and Robertson was coming back to Calgary, that would really change my stance on how Dallas would look moving forward. Yeah. But that would be interesting, and I think that would certainly be an offensive push and punch for Calgary. So that wouldn't be too bad of a trade.
It's almost like a win-win. You're right, because Robertson, I know people are disenchanted with the playoffs.
Change of scenery would help him too.
So, but he can still be a good regular season player, and they got to think regular season Calgary before they even think playoffs.
Right, playoff, yeah.
It can help them immensely, certainly.
But my God, Anderson and Dallas with Heiskanen and Harley and everybody else.
Lindell, Harley, Heiskanen, Leon Bischel, who's only going to get better. They like Nils Lundqvist too. They expect that young kid to take another leap for Dallas.
That's an all-in move for Dallas if they make it.
Yeah.
And how could you, if you don't get anything done with that blue line potentially? My goodness.
Yeah, no question. That's interesting. And Goose does have good.
Yeah, he got good
contacts and connections with Calgary.
Yeah.
Like he does. Yeah. Have people that know things about what's going on.
That'll be interesting. Definitely, we'll be keeping an ear and eye out for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not saying that's going to happen. That trade.
No.
I think it's certainly from the sounds of things. It sounds like it's something that's being talked about. For sure. The Calgary Flames were talked about in this edition of the Ice Guys team season preview video. We hope you enjoyed it. For Alex B. Smith and for Goose, his connection's gone out, but we thank him very much for joining us here. I'm Ian Cameron. This has been your Calgary Flames team season preview video as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along, courtesy of the Ice Guys.